This is
Genatzet Hayer.
A Toast to Armenia with Jano Kabinjian. A comprehensive look at the Armenian culture, only on the Ignotainment Media Network.
Genatzet Hayer, Pai Luis in Chipesek. Hey, Chris, what a great show we've had the last couple of weeks. I know you were gone to Belfast last week, and our listeners let me know that they were missing us, man.
That's what I'm hearing.
So, but I'm glad the show's back, and we've got some great stuff going this show. We've got two guests. One's going to be on a regular basis, and the other one here we're going to get to is Chris Chambers. And I tell you what, this guy has produced something, directed something that's really, really interesting right now. It's called ARAM, and we'll get to him in a minute here. Hey, our Armenian team, they played good.
Yeah.
They played good, Chris.
Really
I'm
good.
telling you, they lost 2-3 to Portugal. And once again, it was a failure on defense with our goalie, or something went down. Every week, or every time these guys played, something breaks down. And again, Ronaldo Cristiano looked like a rock star. He had 3 goals. I mean, the guy's a rock star anyway.
He is a rock star.
And even in Armenia, you should have seen the TV. I mean, our girls were digging him in Armenia. Yeah. They had one side Armenia flag and then the other side Ronaldo flag. So anyway, that's what happened. Our Armenian wrestlers are doing pretty good in Baku. They one took a silver, and that's pretty impressive, going into your enemy's country that doesn't really like it and coming out with some silverware. You know what? You can't go wrong with that.
Absolutely.
Well, I tell you what, now it's time. We got Chris Chambers on the phone right now, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Chris, glad to have you on board, man.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Chris, you've got a show right now that's really getting a lot of attention with the Armenian people and in Los Angeles in general. It's called ARAM. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, the response has been overwhelming. We had our sold-out world premiere this week at the Los Angeles Film Festival and received coverage from the Hollywood Reporter. We were on Good Day LA, Los Angeles Times. It's been really exceptional, and we've had a very warm reception from the Armenian community, which is extremely important to me as a filmmaker.
Well, you know what? It didn't. When I looked at your background too, you went into the streets of Little Armenia, North Hollywood, and you kind of walked around the stores and so forth just to get familiar with what you're talking about, what you're going to be directing. You really wanted to feel what it was about.
Yes. So I'm not Armenian, as you can guess from my last name being Chambers. But I've always been intrigued with the Armenian community. So basically there were 3 main drafts to the script. The first was something I'd written using research and using my imagination and personal themes that were important to me. And then after that, I went out into the Armenian communities of Los Angeles and went to the locations where there are scenes written in the script and met the actual real shop owners and the real Armenian immigrants who live in those areas and struck up conversations with them. And they shared their stories with me. I told them I was making this film, and they opened up and shared their personal experiences. And I would go back home after that and then take a scene that was all of a sudden felt false after hearing a real story, and I would add pieces of real lives into it to make the film more authentic.
Wow, that's beautiful. So they were very warm and accepted of you coming into their store and just talking to them about this stuff, right?
It was incredible. So almost half the film takes place in a shoe store where basically it's about an Armenian boy who's sent to America after family tragedy to live with his grandfather, and he falls in with the wrong crowd. His grandfather is a cobbler. He owns a shoe repair store and had a background as a classically trained pianist. And the amazing thing is, when you go to the shoe repair stores in Los Angeles, almost all of them are, in fact, owned by older Armenian immigrants, all of whom have a very rich cultured background. They had other passions in their lives, but this is how they provided for their families.
You know what? I seen the trailer, and it kind of hit home. It was like I was really seeing my grandfather or something like that. It was beautiful. I tell you, folks, I couldn't get enough of this, and I can't wait to watch this movie. Just the trailer part, I was really hooked onto this, Chris. You can't believe this.
Yeah, it looks unbelievable.
Yeah. So this did not this. You definitely paid your way to get into this too. I mean, Chris, I checked out your resume. It's been you definitely paid a lot of hard work to get to where you're at too.
Yeah, I have an unusual background in that I started in the indie world basically as an assistant cameraman about 12 years ago, and kind of worked my way up to becoming a cinematographer. And then I went to the American Film Institute, AFI, and started working as a director. So I've kind of had experiences at every level in filmmaking. And then in directing, I started working in promos, and I've directed over 5,000 television promos, over 100 commercials and spots for new media.
No,
and that's allowed me to have the tool set to make an indie film. Because making an indie film, you can't solve your problems with money. You have to solve them with creative ideas, with creative solutions. And if you don't have experience, it's very hard to do that, how to figure out which corners you can cut.
Definitely. And it was just amazing to see your resume. It was a long list, and Chris, if you've seen it, you'd be impressed by it. I just
that's incredible.
It was just one after another, and the guy's definitely, he was assistant here, assistant there, and finally, he's worked hard to get where he's at, and
sure.
Bravo, Now, the movie ARAM, it seems like the good kid father raising, grandfather in this case, grandfather raising the good Armenian boy, environment not so good. What makes this one stand out, Chris, that the Armenian community has really embraced this movie about? I mean, you see a lot of movies with that dialogue right there. What's this one that everyone's like saying, wow, this was really good, this one really stands out?
Yeah, I think there's two things that make us really stand out. It's the reason why a lot of the community and the press are really supporting us. One is that, as far as we know, this is the first time we've had a non-Armenian director making a film that takes place in Little Armenia and cast with only Armenian actors in the lead characters. So there's nobody who's Italian who's pretending to be Armenian. Our lead characters come from the exact ethnicity and exact cultural background as the characters themselves. So we have very authentic performances instead of what you normally see in Hollywood films is just, a character will speak the first line in the correct language and then they'll speak, with an English accent for the rest of the movie, and it's completely inauthentic.
How did you cast this? I mean, how did you get these actors? How did you find them?
I mean, it was extremely difficult. One of my rules going into the film was all lead characters who are Armenian have to be played by Armenian actors. After about a month of auditions, we still hadn't cast the film, and we had to push our entire production schedule back, which if you've ever tried scheduling a film, that's a very complicated thing to do.
It's a nightmare.
And basically they came in different ways. It's basically a story about a boy looking for a father figure. And sometimes young children, they make the wrong decision, even if it's for the right reasons. So our lead character is played by John Sepagorhinyan, who's an amazing young actor. It's his first feature film leading role. And he got the role because he came in the audition and he just blew us away. He was without a doubt the best of I don't know how many kids, we saw over 100 kids. Of all of them, he was the only one for the role. And we knew at the moment he auditioned. He's very talented, extremely intelligent young actor.
When you kept pushing it back, did you? Yeah. Excuse me. Did you feel the pressure from the people that are, paying for this too? Hey, let's get this thing going. I mean, you wanted this thing to be perfect, though. That's great.
Exactly, because I knew that as an outsider, as making a film in that community, without having a partnership with really talented actors who are actually Armenian, who can tap into their cultural background, we would make a film that was so false it would just be offensive, and it would just not even be worth doing.
I did see the trailer on this, and this kid, like you're saying, was unbelievable. I mean, he was really sharp. I mean, the way I felt. I mean, it was like a 2-minute trailer. And I'm going, wow, he's really into it. The grandfather, he looked like it was vintage. I mean, this Chris, when I watched this, it was unbelievable. It was great.
It was incredible.
Well, the grandfather is actually quite famous in Armenia and unknown to the American public. His name is Levon Sharafian, and he's done 30 movies, 500 episodes of television, every Shakespearean tragedy on stage. He's a merited artist of the state from the nation of Armenia. He's a great actor, and it was very difficult to find him because he's never worked with any American filmmakers before.
Unbelievable.
Wow. When you shot
he's definitely the greatest actor I've ever worked with. I can tell you that, without doubt.
I think this guy's been in a lot of. Wow. I tell you what, that's great. I'm getting more proud hearing about this than anything. Is there anything, like, whenever we do our show, me and Chris, afterwards, I'm like, you know what, I wasn't too happy with this or that. Were you satisfied 100% after this and say, you know what, we did what we were supposed to do on this?
You know what, that is such a complicated question because for me, I think there's two kinds of, creative people. One, they just make something and it's beautiful no matter what. And then there's people like me who all I see is the ways I wish I could have done a better job, the ways I wish I could have improved it just a little bit better. So I can't say that I'm satisfied because I think I'm still just starting out as a filmmaker and I can't wait to make films that have even stronger emotional impact. But I can tell you that the audience reaction, when we had the sold-out screening, it's the first time I saw the film with more than 5 people, and there were, it was over 300 people. And we have this big climax with a big emotional ending. And I was hoping to feel that the audience was responding the way we wanted. And their reaction was beyond anything I expected.
And you were looking around saying that.
That's gratifying.
Wow, that's beautiful.
That's what matters in the end. It's just the audience. Are they reacting? Are they getting it emotionally? Are they responding to the film?
Now,
that's the place.
is this movie, is it going to be in selective theaters, or is this like we're in the Midwest? How do we get a chance to see this?
Well, we're still working that out because we're still in the middle of our festival run. So we're going to Armenia after this for the Golden Apricot, and then the plan is to do a limited theatrical run with basically kicking it off in Glendale, which is basically our home base.
Right.
And then going to multiple cities where there's strong Armenian populations. But if there's an Armenian group or population or community that wants to invite us to host a screening, I will do everything I can to be there. And if any of my actors can get off work to go, they would love to be there too, because we all want to help get this to as many people as we can.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And we will definitely spread the word on this movie as well. We have so many people that listen to our show up in Canada, South America, in the East Coast. I mean, this will really, this will give it a little jar here. I'm very proud to say, this ARAM could light things up for our show too here. Can't wait. Chris, in the future, do you have anything else planned with regarding the Armenian people, or was this a one-time thing that you just wanted to see what would happen, or what's your game plan on that? Or is it too soon to talk about anything in the future? You're still pushing this, I'm assuming.
Well, we're definitely still pushing this, and this is going to take us to the end of the year, and we're very just excited at trying to get this in front of more audiences because it has a great message at its core. It's a film that's about family at its core. It's a film that's about every child's need for a father figure at its core, and it seems to resonate even with non-Armenians because it's sort of a classic immigrant story. So it makes it in some ways very specific, but also a universal American story. I have 3 other scripts right now that I'm working on. None of them actually take place in the Armenian community, but they all do kind of continue to investigate this idea of American identity and race, because I just think it's a very complicated issue. And we're a country made of immigrants. Everybody I know and grew up with in Los Angeles is either first-generation American or an immigrant, or at the most second-generation American.
You're right. You're definitely right about that. It's definitely the melting pot of the world, and for people in this United States to not accept it, or this is what America's about, and I'm glad you made stand on this to where it is what it is, and there's a lot of people out there, a lot of ethnic kids out there, and so forth that are having a hard time blending in with society and so forth. So this is very beautiful to capture here.
Yeah, we had an amazing experience in a screening where the lights came up, and again, there's this big emotional ending, and I looked to my right, and there's a Korean-American woman in tears. And I said to her, I'm curious, I understand if you're Armenian, why you respond to this story, but I'm curious, why are you responding? And she said, well, this story happens every day where I live in Koreatown. It just happens in Korean.
Wow.
Sure.
And that's when I realized we're all part of a continuity. My grandparents came here and immigrated, had struggled with the language. They really struggled economically. And it's just that the surface details change, but every generation we have new waves of immigrants, and this is what makes America great, and we need to celebrate it.
One question, backing up on these questions, when you had all these Armenian actors, was it difficult for the communication factor? I mean, you wanted to get the Armenians that were pure Armenian. I mean, how did that work out for you?
It was definitely a challenge. The biggest challenge was that to communicate, subtext and to talk about performances and breaking down a scene. Even in English, it's difficult to really nail down what you're trying to get emotionally from a scene. So I ended up firing 6 translators in a row because they just they couldn't capture the nuance. They didn't understand English well enough, or they were not really honest about what dialect they spoke. Like they were actually Baruta High, and they were trying to take it through in High Estanci, and as a result, their translations weren't true to what I was saying and what the script said. And it took a while to diagnose those problems. So that was a struggle in the beginning.
Yeah, I tell you what, Chris, you make a great point there, because I'm Lebanese descent, and my wife is Armenian, from Armenia, and it's a total 2 different dialects. I'm glad you brought that up. We have a hard time to this very day. It's been 17 years, and I still sometimes don't understand my wife. Well, maybe that's on the good side too, not understanding my wife. But yeah, it's when I go to Armenian parties, and they talk the Armenian from Armenia, and it is very difficult to understand one another sometimes. So yeah. I understand that.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that too, because there's 2 ways to see this film. And if you're American, you see it one way, because it's very complicated to explain the intricacies of Armenian culture. It would just take hours or days or years. But in fact, this family is a bit like your family, in that it's a mixed family, in that in this very beginning we introduced the parents of Aram, and the father is actually Beruta High, and the mother is High Estanci. Mm-hmm. And as a result, there's an added layer, which we hope works as a metaphor for unity within the culture. But so, in fact, if you're Armenian watching it, and you understand this, you obviously speak the languages and the dialects, you'll see that it's actually the story of a mixed family coming to terms with itself.
Wow, this is going to be great. I cannot wait. How are we? When should we expect this? I mean, when's this gonna? You're taking it to Armenia first. How long will that take?
That's coming up in July, and we're still working out the details because we just finished the Los Angeles Film Festival last night. So,
and you are getting some big reviews on this one.
Unbelievable. It's exceeded our expectations. This was made with a lot of heart, but just because you care and just because you love a project doesn't mean the world's going to appreciate it. But so far, it's been an amazing reaction from the press.
What can we do, Chris, for this to come out? I mean, I noticed that we need something. We need our fans out there to get on Facebook. Are we just going to keep asking you now? When can we? When's this going to pop up, or how's this going to work here?
Sure. I mean, because we're an indie film, we can't really afford to advertise it the conventional way. So we're trying to get all of our fans together on Facebook at facebook.com/ARAM Film. That's ARAM Film. And we'll be giving updates, because in fall, basically after school starts and before Thanksgiving, is when we want to get this film out to theaters. to communities across America. And if you're in a community that wants to see this film, we'll do everything we can to bring it there because we're very passionate about it, and we love the conversation that it sparks afterwards.
Absolutely, that's amazing.
And the thing about that is, I guess you're working hand in hand with the Armenian churches. They seem to have the Armenian public on their side all the time. I mean, if we get the churches on our side, we can definitely get the volume of people in one arena and so forth. I mean, isn't that how it works too?
Yeah, we haven't actually started that yet, but it's come up many times. And I just personally, even though there's been probably about 150 people in the Armenian community here who've been part of this project, part of consulting, part of correcting, part of ushering us through this, we haven't yet really connected with the church. But I personally would love to, because actually underneath this, it's not religious, it's not political,
right?
But there is actually a religious parable that when you see the film, and if you grew up with, I grew up Catholic, so I grew up with the Catholic teachings in the Bible my whole life, you'll actually see underneath that there is actually a religious parable that's mirrored. And if you don't get it, if you don't see it, that's okay. The movie still works. But if you grew up with Christianity, you probably will see that. So it's kind of interesting to see.
Well, thank you very much, Chris. This has been great. And I got to tell my other Chris here, my producer, the way I found Chris was our Roger Capellion.
Oh, well. Hey.
Roger's great.
He is amazing.
I said, Roger, I need a guest here. And he said, I got the right person for you. And I wouldn't have went any other direction than Chris Chambers right now. This has been great.
Oh, it's been amazing. What a great story. I'm excited to see the film.
Yes, and Roger has been a great support. He's been a great consultant helping us to make the film more authentic. And he is an extraordinary talent. I mean, I don't know if your your listeners know, but he's just, I mean, this man can do everything. He can create graphic novels. He's a filmmaker, special effects. I mean, he's an incredible talent.
We've had him on our show, and he's been a friend ever since, to where anything anything I ask him or need his help on anything, he's been there for us, and we can't appreciate enough all the work that Roger does. So, yeah, I definitely agree with you. Well, thank you again, Chris Chambers. This has been great. I appreciate it, and I tell you what, we'll have our people out there. Again, give that Facebook site. One of you Chris's, any Chris here jumping in with this Facebook site, let's get this out, and let's have people listening in, and whenever this is full blast, we'll get it out. We've got some people on our podcast that have been really loyal listeners, and we'll have this message out there.
That sounds amazing. I was in St. Louis last in 2007 for working on a film, and I can't imagine anything better than to return with this film. So I hope we can make that happen.
Well, you'll definitely, I'll show you all of West County and so forth. You'll have a great time. And good luck with the film. Good luck with Armenia. And we will be staying in touch. And give us a call anytime. You're a friend of the show now, and we'll plug anything that you got. I hope this movie takes off, and when it does, we'd love to hear from you again.
Thank you. And as I say to our members of the community here,
thank you very much. He said thank you.
Or merci if you're Lebanese, but thank you again from my heart. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, Chris. Thank you very much. And that was Chris Chambers, my friends. What a great interview that was. Chris, that was great. Man, I tell you what, did Roger Capellion come through for us again? And on that note, too, he's got 2 books that he signed, War Gods, that he's giving out for us to give out to our people out there.
I know. I wish I could enter to win one. They're really cool.
Yeah, they are. He's signed both these, and we're going to have some sort of a contest. I got to get together with Roger on this one to see what this promotion will be all about. Hey, but you know what? This is what we got coming up for you next. This is great. How long have I been bothering you about having an Armenian cook on our show?
I think ever since we started the show.
Yeah. I've been wanting someone to give us the inside of Armenian cooking and so forth. Well, I dug around Facebook, my friends, and I ran into Mariam on a page called Cooking with My Armenian Family. Now, I remember I remember this when I was a kid when both my parents passed away, and it was fun cooking with your family. Your Armenian family was beautiful, and today I have a guest, and hopefully we'll have this guest every week for 5-10 minutes. She can give us a recipe out there, an Armenian recipe. Mariam, it is great to have you on our show.
Hi, it's nice to be at your show.
All right, okay. Hey, Mariam, how long have you been doing this? I mean, did you pick this up from your family? Did your parents or grandparents? How did you like cooking?
Well, I grew up with my grandmother cooking, and we always had family gatherings. We had a big family, I remember. I was a little girl, and I remember her cooking all the time. Her apron never came off.
Hey, let me ask you this. Wasn't it beautiful when your mom would do the grape sarmas, and you just sit back and you just watch her making these while you guys just talked, and it was kind of like a social thing too, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. The cooking was special because we knew if someone was coming over, it was a different type of cooking. We knew it was a family time. It was family cooking, everybody being involved as far as my grandfather was also a very good cook, so was my uncle. So
isn't that amazing? Our men do a great job at cooking. It's not only the shish kebab guys; we do it all out there. Yeah. So Mariam, let's get to it. What do you have for us this week, for this weekend, that our Armenian families can say, "Hey, you know what? That sounds like a good idea. Let's do that one." What do you got?
Well, this is something very easy, and it's very common amongst Armenians that come from Armenia, and this is a very easy egg dish. You can do this in breakfast time, brunch, or lunch.
Okay.
And it's scrambled eggs with tomatoes. If you go to any Armenian, they would know what you're talking about. And I grew up with it. It was our lunch usually. As you know, in Europe, well, it's part of Eastern Europe. We don't have breakfast like we have it in here, and it was mostly afternoon that we ate. So this would be something we would do, and it's very easy to make. And
the way that we used to make this, or the way my mom used to make it, was the tomato was always, it had to be juicy. It couldn't be like for our listeners out there, it's not a tomato that's intact still. I mean, this is crushed tomato, right?
Exactly, yes. It is ripe tomatoes, and what my grandmother usually did, and we had a garden, a whole backyard of fruits and vegetables, and she used to pick those which were organic, and she used to put it in a boiling water, and then the skins would come off, and then she would just crush it by hand. And then she would cook it with onions and jalapenos. And this is actually my grandfather's recipe. And then once that would be the mixture of the tomatoes with onions were done, with the jalapenos, of course, he would add the egg mixture, and he would cook it thoroughly, not... but it's always runny, and because of the tomatoes.
Right,
it would be always runny because of the tomatoes.
I think that's the whole secret of it too. You got to keep it running, and it's got to be like great with the. And on the side too, we'd always have like. What did you put on the side of it? That would be the main thing out there, and then you'd probably have some feta cheese and stuff like that.
Definitely cheese and herbs and bread would be on a table all the time. So yeah, that would be something on a side. Bread, number one thing.
Armenians love bread, Chris.
Yeah, well,
we eat a lot of bread.
I feel like I'm an honorary Armenian then.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, that's definitely starting the show off in the right way, because that did definitely get my mouth watered here. I tell you what, thank you, Mariam, and. Next week, maybe you can get us on something else as well. I'm starving now.
Oh, sure thing.
All right, then. That was Mariam, and she will be with us every week. Her 5 minutes, give us her insight on what to cook for the weekend. And thank you very much, Mariam.
Thank you. And also this recipe, they can find it in that book. I didn't give any measurements.
Yeah. Please give a shout out. Give a shout out to your homepage.
It's Cooking with My Armenian Family. I usually post things, not necessarily things from the book, but the book has the recipe. If you go to Amazon.com, you can definitely find this book, and you can find a lot of recipes that are easy.
And that's where I found Mariam here on Facebook, Cooking with My Armenian Family. Thanks a lot, Mariam, and we will be back with you next week. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
And I tell you what, Chris, that was great. And what a great show we had again with Chris Chambers. We got Mariam on every week, too. And we're not done yet, folks. We got someone else that we're working on as well.
Absolutely.
And tune in. It's been great. Genatzet Hayer, Kisher Party. We'll be back with you next week.
Tune in next week for another episode of
Genatzet Hayer,
A Toast to Armenia with Jano Kabenjian. You can find the show online at www.armeniaproud.com or download and subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher for Android. This is the Ignotainment Media Network.